Today we are going to go through what an amateur disc golfer uses in his bag. Let's get right into it. For starters, I'm using the Eagle McMahon grip bag, which I've been using now, I believe this is my 2 or 3 years. I think it's my 3rd year. Really been loving it. We're gonna get right into it. We're gonna get started with the putters. What I'm gonna be putting with for this season is the Judge. And specifically the 10-year anniversary, the classic hybrid Judges. Super flat, almost a little bit concave, and have a decent bead, but I've beat these in, used these for about a year, and I swapped out to the P1s last season. And they were going well and everything, and then I was in a little bit of a putting dilemma, and so I switched back to these, and they've been money ever since. So really glad that we made the switch back over to these. Got a couple here on the shelf, and I'm going to go through a couple discs that are not in my bag, but ones that I'm considering, and ones that I'll probably swap in and out. For my approach discs, kind of approach putters, if you will, we have 4, starting out with the P1. So what I bagged last year, this was one of my actual putting putters, and now it's a throwing putter, very warped and very understable. If I can throw it on a hyzer, I'm mainly a hyzer flip player, so I can throw something in the woods and it'll flip up and turn over. Great utility disc. My main thrower is this C-Line Color Glow P3X. These are money. I actually have 2 up here. Let's see, actually 3. So I have a replacement one. I have an S-Line one, which is actually a little bit more stable. And we have a D-Line P3X, which probably will not bag, but it's kind of cool. Anyway, that is my go-to throwing putter. If I need something straight, kind of a slight hyzer flip up to flat, or I can throw it on hyzer and just get a ton of distance. Big time throwing putter for me. The next one is the Berg. This is a fun disc to throw. If you haven't thrown one, you either love it or hate it. And I'm one that loves it. I throw these forehand and hyzer shots that just pan all the way over and just never fight out of it. So stinking well. And I'm so glad that one of my buddies got me into the Berg. So we have a Berg with the signatures on the back from my hole 16 ace. If you guys haven't seen, in my Break 49 series, I aced, and I literally had turned the camera off, and so I have some witnesses for that. But this Berg gets a ton of use. So really the Berg and the P3X get a lot of use. And then my other one is this Discraft Bar Stamp Z Swirl. I'm not exactly sure what plastic, but this Zone. Great forehand disc. I throw a lot of forehand turnovers with it, and a lot of just dead straight shots with it. So those are my 4 throwing putters, and they all get a lot of use, all in very different fashions. Next, let's get into the mids. Like I said, I got a bunch of discs here on the rack, and I got a little bit behind the camera, but putting putters and throwing putters are pretty much locked in for this year. Don't really see myself throwing many others. Might switch out the Zone with something a little more stable. But the mids is something that I've kind of gone back and forth with. How many mids do you want to bag? How many mids is necessary? And so basically the answer to that is a lot of people in this area bag quite a few mids, because a lot of the courses and tournaments that we play at here in the local Springfield, Missouri area get a lot of mid-range love, a lot of shorter courses. So my first one is this Midnight Prowl 2. This is brand new to the bag. I lost in Florida at Olympus. I lost my main Origin. It was super beat in, so it was probably about time that we got another one in the bag, swapped out for it. Great hyzer flip to just late drifter, or if I just need something as a standstill that can just get a ton of distance, it's perfect. I have this Orbit Warship. Something that goes incredibly far for a mid-range. And so if I need something in the woods and I just need a ton of distance, but I want a lot of control, I'll throw this. There's a little bit of overlap right now between this and my Iron Samurai 3. I also lost my other MD3 that I was bagging. And so here I have a couple. This Detour, I probably will not bag, but I have very much considered giving it a shot. I think it's a very good mid-range. And then I have a couple more, but here's the one right now with me is this Horizon MD1. I have a couple mind benders. So we've been looking into maybe bagging the MD1. I'm not really sure, but there's just a lot of overlap right now. So I think the Origin and the MD3 are for sure gonna stay in the bag. The Warship gets a lot of use when I'm out on a course where I can just let it fly and it just glides for days. So I don't know, sometimes in these woods shots, I'm not going back and forth between a lot of these mids. I just pick one. If it starts going well, then I stick with it. So next one up is the Gannonburg Glacier. Very fun disc to throw, very similar to the Warship where it's kind of like a 6 to 7 speed feel in the hand. It feels really good. And this has been kind of in and out of the bag. Other one that I've been really considering is this Metal Flake MD4. So these two are kind of in a battle, and then to see if one of them even makes it into the bag. And then the other thing is they're kind of battling to see which one makes a bag. I love the Gannonburg Glacier. Seems to have a little bit more glide, and in a headwind will just kind of flip up and go. This one seems to have a little bit more beef to it and is a good thrower in headwinds. So we'll see which one of those makes the debut, if any. And then this Pyro, I've kind of been messing around with. I don't love it, but it is a good flying mid-range. So there's a potential that we'll see that this year. Who knows? Then my last one, my beefcake, is this Lucid X, maybe? Very board flat Justice, super overstable, and I throw this on a lot of forehands. Needed a really good flat forehand mid-range, and so this, as soon as I got it, I actually got it out of the used bin at Ozark Mountain. Go support them. They got a great used bin selection, and you guys can use my code RS10, save 10% when you check out, and get stuff like this. I got this for $6. It was in the used bin for a long time, and now this is a money thrower for me. Forehands, forehand turnovers, forehand spike hyzer shots. It's a ton of use. Let's get into the fairway drivers. Fairway drivers, something I've swapped out a lot, and I go back and forth all the time. Right now we have this Kona Montgomery Escape, something that's super understable. If I just mash it, it just turns into a perfect roller. So I kind of have it as a good utility roller driver, fairway driver, if you will. But this thing goes really far, and in the woods, I can throw it 80% power on this mega hyzer, and it just flips up and just glides. And so this has been something I use a ton in the woods, a ton for like kind of just get out of jail free shots if I just need a big panning turnover from like a standstill or something. Then we have this Neo FD. The FD has been something that right away I didn't fall in love with the FD, and then once I started throwing it, I loved it. And this Neo FD in this plastic is money. Love the Neo plastic, and so something like this, I just throw on a hyzer, just flips up to flat, and it just gets a slow drift. But if I throw it 70% power, it's just like laser straight. So this is a really good kind of my money woods thrower. I can get a ton of distance out of this. So if I don't need to throw a distance driver and I'm at 370 or in and I need to hit a gap, this is gonna be my go-to. Next one that I've really been loving is the FD1. Don't mind all this mud, played this weekend and it's kind of stuck on here, so I'll have to wash that off. But this Lux Vapor plastic is really gummy and I really love it. I think I'm gonna roll with this one, but there is a chance that I actually maybe work this Skywalker 2 into the bag. Haven't thrown it yet. I actually just got it this weekend. But this Color Glow plastic is one of my favorites. As you guys have seen, the P3X is in the same Color Glow plastic, but this stuff feels phenomenal, and the FD1 has been one of my favorite go-to fairway drivers. If you guys have an Anthony Barella T-Bird 3, I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to see if I could get my hands on one, because I actually had one. I gave it to my brother a couple years ago who was getting into disc golf, and so shout out to him. He throws it, loves it. I would love to get my hands on another one, because the T-Bird 3 I think is one that I might swap out with this FD1. For now, this FD1 I think is the same mold. It's been flying really well for me. So it's basically between this Color Glow one, which we'll have to do some field work with, versus the Luxe Vapor. It just goes dead straight and just flies a long ways. Next up, a surprising in the bag is this Lazat Tesla. Very good disc. But when I first got it, it was a beefcake. And so we're kind of comparing this to my Thunderbird, which I had a Thunderbird in the bag. And these kind of were battling back and forth. I really think this Tesla is probably going to be the one I go with, because it's a little bit flatter and it feels really good. So I can throw a really good, just straight forehands with this. Get a little bit of drift, but it mostly just goes straight for the forehand. Backhand, it flies like a Thunderbird. Like, I can throw it and it just gets a good little fade at the end, but it's not super overstable. Fights the wind really well. So one of these two you can expect to see in the bag, but it's likely going to be the Tesla. And if you've thrown a Tesla before, the Simon one is not the same disc. It's so much more overstable, but such a good thrower. Then that leads me to my last one, is this Sexton Firebird. These Sexton Firebirds will always be in my bag. Felons, all these other discs just aren't it. Sexton Firebird is one of the very first discs I ever bought with my own money, and this is one that holds a place in my heart. From Oregon, Nate Sexton's from my home area. So just supporting Nate Sexton himself, and just being one of the OG discs that I ever had, this thing is just a money flyer. I honestly haven't even really thrown a normal Firebird. I've only thrown Sexton Firebirds, so that concludes my fairway lineup. And last but surely not least, what gets the most use is my distance drivers. Right now I have 7 in the bag. These get swapped out so often, and usually it's similar molds, just different plastics, back and forth with similar, like the DD3 to the Destroyer. I'm all over the place, but here's what I am currently bagging right now is I have a couple Destroyers. So I have this dyed Champion Destroyer, very, very understable. So I can throw this flat and it just drifts all the way over to the right. I can throw it in a tailwind and this thing just bombs. Super understable. I think it's maybe 168 grams. Feels like a lightweight Destroyer. This thing goes super far, great for my arm speed. Next up is this Royal Strive. Something that I didn't think was ever gonna make the bag. I tried the Rive for a little bit and I just didn't really vibe with it. And then I threw this Strive. One time my buddy gave me one and he was like, hey, try this out. I think it'll be great hyzer flip disc for you. And I threw it and it was a perfect shot. And so I was like, all right, I got to try these out. And so these kind of have replaced like my understable Wraiths. Super good bomber disc if I need something to just go super far. Never really fade out until like the very end. So this and this Destroyer are very similar, but this seems to get a little bit more flip up quick and a little bit of late stability. And then next we're going into my main Destroyers. My main throwers right now is this Jumpman Destroyer. Star Destroyer is one of the Pop Top Sake Bomb Destroyers. Super good run, very beat up, got a bunch of nicks in it, but just a perfect thrower. I can just throw it and gets a good drift out of it, and it's just super straight. Great complement to it is this Swirly Star Team Stamp Destroyer. Love that it's a team stamp. I got this out of a used bin, but this is a 175, very flat Destroyer. and throw this in a headwind, and it just gets minimal flip. Just rides straight and then gets a good finish at the end, where my Jumpman one will get kind of turn over a little bit into a headwind. So that's kind of where I'm at. These two are like my main throwers. Then the last three are very much just like back and forth, trying to figure out what I want. What I'm looking for in this, which is this cloud breaker, I'm really looking for something I can throw on forehand really hard and it'll just go flat. Won't turn over and it won't just hyzer flip. It's just gonna go flat for a long ways and then get a little bit of fade at the end. So I have this cloud breaker right now. I'm trying to see if this is gonna be it. I was throwing it for a while, about a year ago, and it was a great flyer for me, and then I just had a few other destroyers swap out. Then I have this Halo destroyer, which is very overstable. Feels amazing, but it's very overstable. And this Gravity Bomb PD2. So these two have a lot of overlap. Very similar flight and very overstable. So I don't think I'm gonna need both of them. I'm gonna probably lean to a PD2 because it just tends to have a little more stability. But these Halo destroyers are so good. So if I can get this beat in a little bit, and maybe it takes the place of one of these like straight flying cloud breakers or destroyers, and this can just be my straight flyer with a little bit of fade. These are kind of my overstable guys. That would be phenomenal. But for right now, I have this Gravity Bomb. I have, let's see, this Skystone PD2, and then this Eagle McMahon bottom stamp PD2. So I'm really in between all three of these. This one's really cool because it's an old Eagle one. Gravity bombs feel really good. I love the tacky C-line plastic, and they're very flat. And then these ones are very overstable. At least this one that I've thrown a handful of times, super overstable. But it's a little bit domier in the middle, and I don't love that for the forehand. So there's gonna be a lot of field work trying to figure out which one of these goes in the bag. Let me know if you prefer one of these over the other, or if you just like bagging discs that are kind of the OG discs or the newer stuff. Let me know if you have a preference. That is my drivers for now. I have CD1 and this Halo Wraith, which are kind of come in and out of the bag very frequently. Trying to figure out if I need like a straight flying 9-speed, or if my 7 speeds can go about just as far, which typically my 7 speeds are going about just as far. So I really don't need a 9-speed straight flyer. And then this Halo Wraith, I'm trying to just figure out where it fits in the bag. This was a really good forehand disc for me to just get a little bit of flip up and ride, and I could just throw this on a max distance forehand shot. But I don't tend to throw those a ton. So really trying to see if that has a spot in the bag. But that, for now, is everything that I am bagging. I'm gonna go through kind of what's in my bag as far as kind of accessories, tournament stuff. We'll do that real quick. But basically, I have a rangefinder. Use this quite often, especially if I can have a caddy. I would love to just have somebody be able to range shots for me. It doesn't happen super often, so I tend to do that. We got some minis in here in the side pouches. Up here in the top, we got our chalk bags, sandbags. We got multiple. We got Sharpies for when we ace. Not that it happens very often, but when it does, it's nice to have. We got towels galore over here. And then we have something that I started out last year, is these bands. Just helping you get stretched out before the round is huge, because I used to be an athlete. So I used to just go out to the course and I would just start throwing, and I was totally fine. Now I'm starting to realize kind of need to get warmed up and stretch before you go out and throw. So that's kind of where I'm at. I love to just get a few arm stretches, kind of warm up my elbow, get stuff going before we're out on the course. But that is what I'm bagging for the 2025 season. As of right now, we'll do an update if things change, because like you guys have seen on my channel, I like to throw a lot of different plastics. I like to do a lot of different trying out the new discs, and so that is a lot of fun to me. So we'll probably do that. Tournaments are going to get started at the end of the month. on the 22nd, I believe, is going to be my first tournament, and we're going to kind of go from there. I'm hoping that we can play really well. I am currently, I'll have it right here, but I believe a 920 rated. At the end of the season, we dropped drastically. In the last 2 months, we dropped from 936 all the way to 920 because of like 2 poor tournaments. And one of them, I'm not gonna get stuck on, but one of them I absolutely hated. I thought the course design was terrible. I thought a lot of the changes they made were terrible, and I just played really bad. So all of that combined just tanked my rating, combined with one other tournament. And so we got to come back from that. We could have been sitting at 936 going into the season, but my goal is to get up to like 945. And I really feel like that's where I'm at. I think we just had a bad tournament to finish the season. So really hoping we can get up to 945. I think that would be a phenomenal way to end the season. I think that would be a phenomenal goal. And if we can get our putting going, that's going to really help us. So we've been doing a lot of putting practice, trying to get there because I know we can. So stay tuned for more. We got some fun content. I'm going to try and get some tournaments maybe filmed. We got some fun challenge videos, some stuff that we're in the works right now. We're trying to get official, but we got a lot of fun stuff, so you're not going to want to miss. Make sure to like and subscribe so you guys can stay in the know with all of the updates and everything going on. Well, we're going to do a giveaway when we get to 500 subscribers. We're getting really close. You guys have really blown this away. I didn't think we were going to get here in the last year, and it's been phenomenal. So thank you guys so much for all the love and support. Make sure to share this with a friend. Thank you guys so much. Peace.